All right, hey everybody, welcome to the webinar today. My name is Jim Kukrow, and for over 20 years, I've been working as a consultant, an author, a trainer, and a professional speaker, mostly for large and small businesses. My passion is to inspire the uninspired to build a better business life or career. I do that by creating training programs and content and really just teaching people and businesses all around the world about my unskippable strategy for success. So I really appreciate your time today, and I hope you take a little bit of time to listen to this, and I promise it will not be a waste of your time. So please just give me a few minutes of your valuable time, turn off your Facebook, turn off your phone, and let's see if I can inspire you to become unskippable in your own way. So the presentation that we're going to be talking today is one that I put together called How to Thrive in a Gold Rush or a Pandemic. And it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Obviously, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world right now, but hopefully you guys will enjoy this presentation today. So let's start with this. Currently in California, there are 160 billionaires. And if you look at that state right now, it's home to Silicon Valley. There's a wealth of celebrities that reside in LA. It's really not surprising that that state tops the list for the most billionaires with a B in America. Now, that's nearly 160 billionaires, including, Mark Zuckerberg, Google's Larry Page, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, even Oprah's there, right? Oprah's probably worth, 20 billion on her own, right? So there's a lot of really super wealthy people in that state. And what a lot of people really don't know, though, who the first millionaire in California ever was. Not billionaire, millionaire, because they didn't really have billionaires a long time ago. This is a person who paved the way for the Zuckerbergs and the Oprahs and everybody else. The first millionaire in California. And the title and the name of that man is, I'm not going to tell you just a second. I want to preempt that, right? So first, I want to talk about what a gold rush is, okay? So a gold rush, if I can get my slide to work, a gold rush is a literal term, right? It's based on actual events in the past. It's in today's world, it's really used in common practice and vernacular to express excitement in a really robust opportunity. The technical definitions of it are: one, a rush to newly discovered gold fields in pursuit of riches. And that's literally the literal definition. And number two, the headlong pursuit of sudden wealth in a new or lucrative field. And I think most of us understand what a gold rush is, but I kind of wanted to explain for people who maybe aren't familiar with that. So we might call this the dawn of selling on the internet a gold rush. I actually would. I lived through it. I got the internet business when it first came out. And in the early days, it certainly was a gold rush, because if you were one of the only people in the world, in the planet, who could build websites like I was, you had a really unique advantage to other people. But, in every gold rush, eventually you mine all the early, easy to get gold, right? There's still gold left on the internet today, but it's much harder to get now because there's just so much competition. But back in the beginning, it was, really easy picking. So a gold rush is really just an amazing opportunity where early adopters who go all in usually reap the rewards and get all the gold. And who doesn't want that, right? So let's get back to California. So it was 1948, okay? And the soon-to-be state of California had just months before been returned to American hands because it was in Mexican rule, and it was a brief period of independent rule. And Sacramento lumber pioneer, a guy by the name of John Sutter, and a man named James Marshall made a discovery that, sparked the legendary California gold rush. And it changed the course of the West history and of America, really. Now, here's what happened. These two guys who found the gold, Sutter and Marshall, they tried to keep it a secret. Because if you found gold, why would you want to tell anybody that, right? So they tried to keep it a secret because they knew that people would just come running to the state and try to jump their claims and take the money away that they found. Now, if that was in today's world, we're living in a much different place right now. Somebody would probably, if they found gold, they'd probably go on the internet and post about it on Facebook, which is just completely ridiculous. But that's probably what people would do today because that's just how we are. I wouldn't, but that's what people do. So let's get back to California's first. And I teased you about this earlier. And you may expect at this point that the two gentlemen that I just spoke about were the actual millionaires. These two guys, Sutter and Marshall. I mean, they were the ones who discovered the gold. It would probably logically make sense that these guys are the ones who got rich from it. But as you can probably assume, if you thought that, you would be 100% wrong. It was actually a man by the name of Sam Brannan. And Sam Brannan really changed everything. So Brannan wasn't a miner. And in really one of the boldest examples of American entrepreneurialism, Sam Brannan made a fortune thinking outside of the box. What Sam did was he profited from the gold hunters rather than the gold itself. So here's how it went down. Sam was one of the first people to learn about the Lucky Gold Rush find. And he owned a couple of general stores as well as a newspaper in the young city of San Francisco. And what he went and did then is he saw the opportunity. He went out and purchased every pot, pan, and shovel in the city, and he spread the news that there was a gold rush. The legend is that he ran through the streets screaming, "Gold, gold," in the American River, right? Now, he also owned a newspaper called the California Star, and what he did was he published a story in the newspaper exposing the gold find because he knew that this would drive hundreds of thousands of people to his city, right? And that's exactly what happened. People came for fame and glory, and this essentially kicked off the first gold rush and also put the wheels into motion of not only the expansion of our country and America, and is ultimately probably one of the biggest reasons why California actually became a state because of this gold rush that happened. So let's get back to Sutter, the guy who found the gold, okay? Because Sutter's tactic had been try to keep the gold a secret, but Brannan wanted the word out. And there's a guy by the name of H.W. Brands who actually wrote a book on this topic. It's the book called The Age of Gold, The California Gold Rush and the New American Dream, which is a really amazing book if you're into entrepreneurship. And he basically said in the book, publicity was the key deal. It would bring people to California and bring people to his stores, speaking of Brannan. So this was recognized even back then when the man who wrote this book, that this was really actually a very smart thing to do. And it really did bring people in. Rather than staking a claim on the gold, what Brannan did is as I mentioned earlier, he bought up all the equipment, right? There's no Home Depot back then, right? There was no place to go to get equipment. He bought up all of the equipment. He took out the money he had and bought up every pot, pan, shovel, and mining equipment piece and then resold it to the miners at a very steep markup. And he made enormous profits, up to $5,000 a day. In today's money, $155,000 a day. Think about that for a second. What it would be like to bring in $155,000 a day, especially back then. And at an extreme markup, at 95% markup, right? So what do we learn from looking at these examples? Well, the point of this whole thing is during a gold rush, you sell shovels, right? It's a metaphor. It suggests that when you recognize a gold rush is happening, don't try to be the 1,000,001st person to mine for the gold because you're probably going to fail. Instead, create an opportunity that all of the millions of people who are looking for gold need, like shovels, right? Now, side note, the two guys who discovered the gold eventually went broke for various reasons. Brannan became California's first millionaire, and the two guys who actually found the gold actually, through a various series of events, became destitute, right? Divorces and bad business decisions. And Brannan, on the other hand, created unlimited wealth for himself, and the others were eventually ruined. So how does this help you? Because if you see a gold rush is happening, what you need to do is think like Brannan, not the other guys, because this is how entrepreneurs think, at least the successful ones. You might want to think about creating demand and creating your own resource. Create your own gold. And for me, this is pretty much how I've built my entire career. For over 20 years as an internet marketing guy, also as an author and a speaker, it's just common business sense. You identify a big problem that a lot of people have, you solve that problem. And if you see a lot of people rushing to accomplish and do something, then you find a way to help them. You sell them shovels. So during a gold rush, sell shovels, all right? Now let's talk about another story from the same time. So these were the two guys who lost everything during the gold rush. They discovered the gold. Now this man you see now, this man had a mind that was very similar to Sam Brannan. And entrepreneurs like this man think this way, at least the successful ones, okay? So during the gold rush, whether it was the California gold rush or the gold rush in the Yukon, the conditions of life in a gold rush were extremely terrible. There were very terrible temperatures up and down. The working conditions were just absolutely terrible. Men were working 24 hours a day without sleep, without food. They were constantly in worry about how to protect what they'd found. Thieves were rampant. People were stealing from them, jumping claims. It was just a really terrible situation from really tough people who worked during these gold rushes, and they worked hard. And they were true American pioneers, truly. But the conditions that they went through were rugged, and the clothes that you were wearing were really important, right? To be able to get through those hard labor-filled work days, right? So this man we're looking at, he had heard the news of the California gold rush. So what he did is he headed out to San Francisco for the same fame and fortune, but it wasn't to mine gold. And he understood that there was another opportunity like Brannan, right? So this man, he was a German-born tailor. He arrived in San Francisco in 1850 with plans, and the plans were to open a store selling canvas tarps and wagon coverings to the miners. So he was, he had the same idea as Brannan. And what happened was, after hearing that sturdy work pants, ones that could withstand the punishing 16-hour, regular days that they had put in by the miners, he heard that these were more in demand, right? So what he did was he shifted gears. And he opened a store in downtown San Francisco that would eventually become a manufacturing empire and a global brand, producing what? I'll tell you here in a minute, but if you know the answer, just give me a thumbs up. So anyone have a guess? Anyone have a guess? Give me a thumbs up if you got a guess. Okay, so Joe thinks he's got a guess. Okay, so who was this man? Well, I'll tell you exactly who this man was. Levi Strauss, who created Levi's denim jeans, right? I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has either owned a pair of jeans or knows who Levi Strauss is. Some people would argue that this name and this brand is iconic as Coca-Cola, right? What Levi saw was opportunity in a gold rush. And he saw a marketplace and he went out and he filled it. And he took risks, but fortune favors the bold. So, this is an amazing story of a man who went through and actually built an entire brand off of a gold rush, just like Brannan. And again, during a gold rush, the opportunity for you is to sell shovels, not mine for gold, not fight the million other people trying to get those precious resources. Instead, think about the needs and the wants that they have. Don't worry about getting stabbed over your morning coffee for the gold in your back pocket, right? Go out there and deliver something for all of those people. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about what's going on in today's world, okay? So if you're watching this video in the future, right, it would be very helpful to know that right now, this is being recorded in April of 2020, which is smack dab right in the middle of the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm sure you guys remember that. If it's 3 years from now, you're watching this, and hopefully you remember that the world shut down. You remember that millions lost their jobs. You remember that we literally all thought the world was going to end. And of course, you're going to remember that. Now, if you're watching this with me live right now, you're probably thinking to yourself, you know, what do I need to do as a small business owner, as a brand, to succeed and thrive during a pandemic? What can I do to earn a living and feed my family? You're probably also thinking, how do I feel safe? How do I not get sick? How do I keep my family safe and also provide for them during this really strenuous time? There's really a lot of things going on through all of our heads right now. We are all extremely scared. We are all anxious, and we are nervous, but we're trying our best to get through it. Now, as an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur watching this, you see things a little bit differently during gold rushes and also during pandemics. Entrepreneurs see opportunities like Sam Brannan or Levi Strauss saw, right, during a gold rush. Because a pandemic is really just like a gold rush, if you really think about it. They're both fantastical, triggering, life-changing, and actionable events that literally change the course of human behavior in history. Now, the gold rush is a positive version of that, right? Is a wonderful, exciting opportunity. And a pandemic is awful and depressing and horrible, right? We all agree on that. But in reality, to certain people, and mainly entrepreneurs, both of those things are the same. If you look at each one in a certain way, as an opportunity. And I'm not talking about unethical opportunity, like, you know, the people who are scamming people and selling bad information, and don't put your head there. You can still operate an ethical business during a pandemic, assuming you're not some kind of price gouger or despicable business person, right? That's not what this is about, right? Those people are people who we're not like, and we don't do business with, and we don't want to have in the world. So get that out of your head. This is about creating an ethical business plan and using it to pivot during during a pandemic. So what is happening right now? What do you see people do? What do you see businesses doing? They're fighting to stay alive. They are innovating. They are disrupting. And the reason is because they have to, right? They're being forced to, right? They don't have a choice. It's survival mode 1,000% out there, right? And that's what's happening in the world right now. So here's a quote that I've always loved. I've never been able to find who to attribute it to, but I want to read it to you. It says, there are three kinds of people: those who make things happen, those who watch what happens, and those who wonder what happened. Okay, read it again. Three types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch what happens, and those who make things happen, and those who wonder what the heck happened. Now, I want you to let that sink in for a second. And I want you to think in your head as you're following along here. And I want you to really answer this question to yourself. Which one of those people are you? Are you the one that watches what happens? Are you the one that wonders what happened after the fact? Or are you the one that makes something happen? So which one was Sam Brannan, the first California millionaire? He was the one that makes something happen. Which one was Levi Strauss, created the global brand? He was the one who makes something happen, right? They had the drive, they had the gumption to take risks and try to take an opportunity, take it and succeed with it, even during a gold rush. And those are true entrepreneurs. So who's winning right now in the pandemic space, right? Who's really winning? There are plenty of accidental success stories in the industry right now. I mean, Guns and ammo through the roof. Alcohol, amazing. Grocery stores are booming, right? Tech companies like Zoom, who we're doing this on right now. Before the pandemic, Zoom had 10 million users. They have 300 million 2 months later. 300 million users in 2 months, 290 million users, and they're growing and growing, all right? So these industries, these companies, they fell into success because of the circumstances. I tend not to give them credit because, you know, sometimes being in business is being at the right place at the right time, right? So they had good businesses, good industries, and they're doing well right now. But for most of us, right, that's not us. We are not one of the people who are just exploding in business right now. For most of us, we're hurting. And don't forget Amazon too, because Amazon was winning before, and Amazon's winning even bigger after this. They're just getting bigger and bigger. But what's happening right now is a lot of businesses are going out of business. Restaurants, movie theaters, hair salons. I could go on for an hour, right? It's easier to list the businesses that are doing well in a pandemic than it is to list all the businesses that are not doing well. And this is an absolute tragedy, what's happening to the world and us here in America especially. And hopefully there's going to be a recovery for all of these business owners. And maybe, hopefully, you're watching this in the future and like it's 3 years from now and you're like, man, what's Jim talking about? Things are fine now. Things are back to normal. Everything's great. I hope that's what's happening. I hope you're watching this going, Jim, you're crazy. Everything's great. I really do. But right now, April 2020, things are looking pretty bleak right now. And it is a struggle every single day for business owners to come in and try and stay afloat. But there are businesses who are adapting. There are people who are innovating, who are recognizing the needs in the marketplace and are looking to fill those voids, right? So here's a company that my friend Dave sent to me, a company called Postcard. And I didn't even know what a bollard was. I didn't even heard the term bollard before. A bollard is like a permanent and temporary clearance bars you might see in a parking deck that you drive under, or calming bumps and humps and parking curbs and like things that, you know, people put out in places. Well, these guys were one of the top manufacturers of bollards, right? I didn't even know what a bollard was. So what did Bollard do? What did Postcard do, right? If you look at what we're looking at here on the screen here, is they just shifted, right? They said, we can make our bollards that are specific for these specific things happening in the industry right now. Grocery pickup bollards, open for carryout bollards, curbside delivery, right? They simply just took the product they already had, modified it, and then went out and put it out to the world and became one of the top producers in the space, literally overnight, right? Now, is this wrong? Is this unethical? Of course not. It's perfectly fine, and frankly, it's smart. What they're doing is they're filling a need. Now, what they could have done is they could have just shut down. They could have sent their employees home. They could have given up. Instead, what they did was they recognized the opportunity during a pandemic and seized it and moved forward with it, right? Who else is pivoting in this time? I mean, there's a lot of stories that are coming through, and I think in the years that follow, we'll have a good idea. But I want to give you just one more small example, okay? Because this is happening. You know, I'm in Cleveland. There's a company called Cleveland Whiskey, which I'm a big fan of. And, you know, Cleveland Whiskey, you know, shut down their breweries, shut down the distillery. And basically they just went out and started manufacturing hand sanitizer, right? And they sell it to the Cleveland Clinic, the big hospital here. And this is just another example of how you need to start thinking about things differently. You don't have to be unethical to have success during a pandemic. However, you do need to think about what you can do to help keep things afloat and things moving. Now, there are industries where this is not going to happen. My friend Brian runs a wholesale tire business. He's the guy who gets tires from the manufacturers and he sells them to the thousands of tire shops all around the country, right? Now, all those tire shops do not have customers. So they are not ordering tires because they don't have customers to sell to. So Brian is not getting orders from his customers, right? So we've been going back and forth on text for a month with my friends talking about how he could pivot his business and what he could sell that's different. And we came to the conclusion there's really not a pivot for him, right? He sells tires, right? There's nothing he can turn his tires into, right? You know, so I guess what I'm trying to illustrate to you is that sometimes there is going to be an industry or a business that doesn't have the opportunity to make, and that's fine, right? What you should be doing is spending your time communicating with your customers, building trust. You may not be able to shut down your factory and start selling hand sanitizer or whatever. Maybe there's an idea there, but maybe there's not. But I just want you to feel okay if there's not. Don't try to reach into something that doesn't possibly exist. You should, of course, explore it and try to figure out a creative way to pivot and do something. But if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Now, what does this all mean for you guys who are, listening to this today? I've been preaching for years and years in today's internet world. There's never been a greater time in the history to build a business, a brand on the internet, right? It used to take 20, 30 years to build a brand, to build a loyal customer base, right? In today's world, you could develop a product or a service. You can launch it in minutes and get it in front of millions of people in minutes. There's really no excuse any longer. So I want you to stop for a second. And if you're one of those businesses who just can't pivot and you've got nothing you can do, I want you to think about another way to approach this, right? Answer these questions. What do you know a lot about? What are you passionate about? What could you teach to people who have a problem who need it solved? Another way to put this is shuffle, right? What's in here that you can extract out into something that helps other people, that you can teach other people? Because there's probably something. Maybe you're a whiz at Excel, right? How can you help other small business owners get through this pandemic with training and guidance on using Excel? Maybe you're really good and knowledgeable about carpentry. How can you help homeowners learn how to fix things in their home? The point of this whole exercise, what we're talking about today, is during a pandemic, sell shovels. Okay, that doesn't really work, okay? But you get the analogy here. A gold rush and a pandemic offer almost exactly the same opportunities if you are thinking about it in an entrepreneurial manner. And that is the point of this presentation. And that is a way that you can build an unskippable business and brand moving forward. Because unskippable businesses don't give up. Unskippable brands don't send their employees home. Unskippable businesses find a way to innovate and disrupt and move forward either during a gold rush or during a pandemic. So thank you for watching. Really appreciate you guys coming on. If you'd like to get access to more of this training, please visit my website. It's beunskippable.com. My name's Jim Kukrow, of course. I appreciate your time. I'm available for speaking gigs, training virtually or in person. Please reach out to me if you'd like to hear more about me presenting to your team or your audience, because I'd love to come in and create a custom presentation for you guys and help you learn how to become unskippable. So just go to beunskippable.com. And again, thanks for your time, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.